Hey guys, I just want to do a very quick tutorial on how to get the latest version of the application up and running on your system. We've got a couple of things here on the desktop that will help us out. So we've got the master sheet with all the devices, we've got the building locations, and we've got the printer data backup that I've been making over the last couple of weeks. For the master sheet, you should be able to get the latest version of this from Lamanda, but I will share the version that I have and that I used for building this out. If you are trying to get to this location, basically all you need to do is download the exe or the zip file and just extract that zip file. And inside you should see this Wolfcopy keeper, and then you're just going to launch the exe to get to this point. So let's go ahead and get this application set up so we can start using it. First, we're going to go over to the settings screen. You can see that the buildings and devices are not populated yet. You can add each individual device, but I wouldn't recommend that. I would recommend importing the Excel sheet. Uh, so you do need to make sure that this is the XLSX format. So you can use like Google Sheets to convert. If you have the XLS version, you can just use Google Sheets to convert that by saving it as this XLSX. So let's go ahead and hit continue. We need to make sure that the copier ID is set to the copier ID and not the old version of that. And make sure everything else is kind of mapped out. It should be. We'll hit preview data. And this will just show us all of the devices that were found inside that Excel sheet and how they're being mapped to the different devices that are registered inside the system. We can see that there is one building that is not located. So if we need to fix any of those locations, you can click on this and either choose to skip or add location. So if you know where that location is, you can drop the pin on the map and it will update that file when you go through. So we'll go ahead and hit skip for now. And then if there's any devices on here that have not been added, you can use the device manager to set those up prior to importing, and it will make sure that it registers everything inside the system. Um, so it's doing some of that automatically. You can see the little wand, and so you don't have to worry about a majority of these. Let's go ahead and hit overwrite and say import. And it's going to go through the process of extracting the data from the Excel sheet, mapping it out inside the software, and updating that as it goes. So once that's set up, you can see that over on our map, we now have the map screen and we have the building screen and then the devices. So you can very quickly, sort and filter this information down to kind of uh, whatever works best for you. So if you want to see the devices specifically in administrative services too, you can. And if you want to just use a map overall to see the different locations, you can as well. We should have all of the different devices on here, but if some of them, were added or are not present, you can always go under settings and say add new printer device, and it will add that to the list. So you can see here that all the icons are currently green. That's because they do not currently have the latest data. So you can use the sync button up in the top right. And if you're part of the NCSU network, it will be able to download the latest data for each device. So it's going to go through and try to update each one. And you can see as it starts to pull in the data, those printers will update with the latest toner readings and any warnings or notifications that they may have. And so we can go ahead and actually cancel this for now. I'll go ahead and show you a quicker way to go ahead and just get the latest and greatest information beyond just syncing. So I've been making backups since I've started writing the code. So we do have some statistics on these devices that it's already available. So let's go ahead and go back over to settings, go to backup and restore and say import backup. And you can see here on the desktop is this export that I created. You can select that and say import, and it'll go through and start to update all of the devices with the data that's already been synced. And so obviously this data will become, outdated here, in a week. But if anybody, continues to sync this daily and wants to share with anybody else in the team, you can always go to the backup and restore section and say backup data, and it will make a zip file for you, and you can share that with others if you'd like, and that will allow you to very quickly update all the devices that you have tracked with this information. And so if you've only been backing up, just your route, you don't have to do the master sheet. So if you just have been backing up your route, you can still share that information, and it should merge that information in based on the devices that it sees in the data. So just saying that, you don't have to worry about it overwriting every device. It will only look for the ones that it has data on. So once that is finished, we can head back over to the map. And there's a couple of other small options inside the settings that you can set for yourself. This works on both your phone or on desktop. So for example, if you want to use the lighter theme versus using the darker theme on the application, there's this appearances button to actually go ahead and switch this theme. And then if you want to use, for example, the dark map setting on here, there's a couple of map settings, such as using map cache. So when it downloads the images, it doesn't have to download them every time. And so I would just leave most of this information alone. But you do have that ability to set some of that information here in settings. And then for the location manager, if you have any new locations that you've created along the way, or that may, get accounted for, you can add those here in the actual location manager. So you can select it on the map, create that new location, and kind of type in the building name and the information. And if you want to share with the team, like if you want to build this out for other people, you can always export those locations so that other people can get that latest and greatest information. Sometimes when you load into the application, if you've ever used an older version of the application, these locations will say that they're missing. And so I'm including a building locations file that you can download at any point, and you can import that into the application and reset and say load from assets, and that will clear out everything and properly load in those new locations for anybody who's been testing this out and helping me with feedback. Um, so once you have the locations and everything set up, we now have the individual printers that can be found across the campus. And so you can go through and see, what the current status is for those devices and their current toner and their daily usage. So it does go through and build out kind of a base statistics of the usage over time. And with that information, it will basically try to calculate this usage pattern so that you can just kind of see how often people are using that device. And based on that, it will try to estimate, when you'll need to refill the toner. For the technicians that are going on site, under toner levels, you can always immediately hit refill. So if you're on site and one of these is 0 and you visited, you can use this to very quickly see, which toner they're using. And then once you're done, you can hit refill, or you can just sync it again. And if it's connected to the network, it should immediately get that change. And if you leave behind additional toner, you can open this up and say additional toner cartridges, and that will then, calculate for that toner over time. So if you've left one behind, this is a good way to just kind of leave a note that you've left one behind. And you can also leave a note for each device. So if you have some, additional details or notes you want to create for each device, you can as well. And then additionally, for each one of these devices, currently most of them are mapped based on the building's geotag location. But if you did want to go to each building and find these different devices and save that information out, it'll make it a lot easier to find them in the future for anybody who wants to navigate to them. So for example, say we went on site with our phone to this location, you can open this up, and currently that's only available for Android. But if we go here, say we're at that device, you say edit device, go down here to edit GPS location, say select on map, and just say drop a pin. And it's like I said, if you're on an Android device, it will, move the pin over to your exact location. You can then hit confirm, and then down at the very bottom say update printer, and it will move that printer to that exact location that you've marked inside the building. So say, for example, it's somewhere over here, say confirm, update, and then when we go back to our map here, you'll see that we now have that printer. It's no longer in this cluster of seven. It's actually offset. And so that should allow you to, the more you do that with each one of these devices, it'll allow you to very quickly see where these devices are inside the building, and allow people to navigate hopefully a little bit easier to where they're located. I know for some of these older buildings that might be really useful. Okay, guys, I think that is, the base summary. You can do, some little things like play around with the system and just let me know your thoughts. If you have any feedback, make sure to leave it with me through email. And I look forward to hearing your guys' feedback and comments. And I hope you guys enjoy the application. It's been great working with you guys. Take care.